Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Yariv, Wolok, my partner in crime, Vasili, Gianarakos, for an impromptu episode, an emergency episode, a State of the Flyers episode. Vasili, I'd ask you how you're doing, but I already know how you're doing. I say we just get right into it.
Yeah, definitely. I would just like to preface beforehand that, we decided that due to what occurred yesterday, we just had to get an extra episode out for everybody. And I think, the fan base deserves it. We need it. We need to all talk about what's going on with this team. And we figured why not do that today?
Yeah. And I've listened to a lot of venting of late through podcasts. And honestly, I hear everybody. This is not me saying, people are no, I hear people and I understand how people feel. Yeah. It's very interesting to hear everybody's response and reaction to kind of what happened. Real quick, before we do continue, I forgot to do this the past two episodes. It's kind of embarrassing, but shout out to our sponsor, Jim Steaks on 4th and South. Make sure to go get yourself a cheesesteak from Jim Steaks on 4th and South. They're Flyers fans. I bet you they're still Flyers fans. They're not taking those pictures down.
No, they're still
show them dedication.
And I mean, even though things aren't where we would like them with the team, we're all, still cheering.
Go cry and eat. Go cry and eat a cheesesteak.
And we want the team, to do well ultimately. And I think, as our publication, Flyers Nitty Gritty, we sometimes get dubbed as the positive ones, and everything's always upbeat with us. And if I would have to say that we call it like we see it. Earlier in the season, when the team was doing bad, we did plenty of hating on them, plenty of shitting on them. So there's a time to be positive about certain things. There's a time to, be realistic about certain things that are occurring. And before we kind of get into Chuck Fletcher, what happened with free agency, things like that, I would like to preface this as well that, even though, Fletcher and his staff doesn't seem like they're the best at evaluating NHL ready talent and building a cohesive plan into, establishing a roster or a clear direction as to what might occur with an organization. I will say that the way they draft players is something that I do like in terms of Brent Flair and Fletcher. I think it's more attributed to Brent Flair, who's in that position as the assistant GM, and into all the scouting of those prospects. So I will say that, things might be bad, but you see people stating, the Flyers have no good players, things like that. Simply not true. There are players that have talent in this team. There are prospects in the prospect pool, though not of the elite high-end talent.
Let's add this. Talented. There are actually reasons to be excited still. I do want to make that very clear. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I feel like that's gotten lost in
it's
the
true.
past couple hours, or
it's
days.
True, for sure.
Well, no. Look, it's a good preface. I will say, we'll just admit straight up right now, just like everybody else, free agency day, we're sitting there waiting for Johnny Gaudreau. We see nothing. See nothing. Then we see two very low end signings, and then we hear press conference at 5, and we're like,
what's going on? Obviously,
And then we hear Chuck Fletcher go, "We're done," and everybody's like,
And the main thing that I think that a lot of fans are pissed off about is just the way it was kind of addressed, and I think that's the
communication has been very poor from the start.
Yeah.
I would say that.
Exactly, and just the fact that you're going to sit there, and say to the fans, say to the media that we were never involved in
that was
signing Johnny Gaudreau.
Everybody knows Gaudreau around here, dude. You can't say that. Half the people in the city know him personally.
That too. And the second thing is, when there's insiders with the level of intel that guys like Elliot Friedman, Pierre LeBrun,
dude,
Kevin
I
Weeks,
have
John
somebody
Buchagras,
who knows him personally who confirmed it to me that there are conversations.
That's what I mean.
That he wanted to come here.
Why? We
all know.
We got to understand something, right? I work in a corporate company. Yariv, same thing. There's always corporate speak and, things you don't say in a public release or a press conference. But in terms of this, if you're going to lie about something, that was not the one to do it about. And that was not the thing to, try to spin it about, I would say.
I'll be honest with you. I think here's the problem. And I think people nailed it. And I think people are right about this. And I think that press conference indication, I think there are too many cooks in the kitchen right now. I think that's obvious. I don't think that Chuck Fletcher thought that Gaudreau was a realistic thing. If you look at a lot of what he said, very tempered. A lot of the stuff is like stuff that gets leaked, or what's his name saying a blank check. Like Fletcher probably doesn't want any of that stuff said because he has no idea what the hell he can pull off. Why? Because this was kind of a show from the very beginning. And this is not me defending Chuck Fletcher. Actually, quite the opposite. Is I think the reason people are mad is because you have just made the realization. And if you listen to this podcast, if you listen to me closely for the past several years, especially since Chuck Fletcher has taken off, I have been pretty much against almost every move he has made. Not that I've said they're the worst in the world, that he's an idiot. I've said I wouldn't have made this move. I said it's fine. I like the player, blah, blah. I wouldn't have done this. And it started with Kevin Hayes signing. Good player, like him still. That in my mind, got
$7 million though. I don't know.
Here's my thing. You guys, and not you guys as in like the fans, and I'm talking about like the Flyers organization. You panicked when Hextall was doing his thing. Get it. Also had his own problems, especially communication based. And that's a whole different communication problem. But that was a problem with Hextall. There was just none at all. It wasn't miscommunication, just nothing. You get nothing. So that is a humongous problem. The day he got pulled, Carter Hart was pulled into the NHL early. We rocked our team. If you think about the guys who were taken under Hextall, they did better under Hextall than they have under Fletcher. He had, that first year transition, but the more it's going under Fletcher, the worse it got. I don't think that's like just because of that. I think it's because of the chaos that's been injected. We're finally there. We're at the point with our salary cap where we had leverage, real leverage over teams. You know what, like Ottawa did this year, where they could just clean up this year. Why? Detroit, same. They waited. They picked their window. They didn't do it when everybody was frustrated. They waited through the bad years. We decided to not. We decided, no, this didn't happen fast enough. Let's do it now. So we started band-aiding. The only trade that I think I can say till today that was brilliant is the Niskanen trade. I will never go back. It was a brilliant trade. It was one of the best trades I've ever seen in hockey.
Honestly, I like Braun. I like that Braun trade too. Just to be fair,
we gave up a lot, but he's a good player. Okay, like that's what I'm saying. Even in isolation, like I like Tony DeAngelo, and I actually think that, to be honest with you guys, I think that's the best move Chuck Fletcher has made. I think people are highly underestimating, but I think it's the series of everything where people now realize it's like you think your parents are wealthy, and then all of a sudden somebody shows up at your door, knocks on the door and says, hey, you guys haven't paid your mortgage. And I feel like that's what the fan base just realized today. You didn't have that money for Johnny Gaudreau in that space because of all the stupid fucking decisions that you made to get to that point. And not all of them are stupid. It's that you didn't plan it right. You went every single year, I'm going to repair this, like the Risto trade and the removing Ghost and the paying extra. I said it over and over again. You continue to do that, you will not be able to do that. Your key thing was leverage. Fletcher has none. In every trade, he has no leverage. Thus, we keep overpaying. And now he's hit a wall where he's like, I have such little leverage in these trade negotiations that people are insultingly asking me for a first-round pick in 2023 to get rid of a 25 goal scorer on a guy we'll even eat cap on.
Yeah,
and he has nothing.
But that speaks to what you were saying though. Like in all those trades for Braun, for Niskanen, for Ristolainen, for
Niskanen was a smart one.
Well, no, that was a good one. Yeah, but for Gostisbehere, Risto, in those situations, you're parting with so many assets. Teams take note of that. They say, well, if this guy's willing to pay this for this type of player, what can I get out of him for this? And that's the thing where you back yourself into a corner in a sense that when you're negotiating a trade like that, you need to actually make sure that, okay, the value I'm giving up, does it actually equal the value of the player that I'm getting back? Which in a lot of those cases, you could argue that it did not.
Well, and you're also banking on players that are good players.
They're not going to move the needle by themselves for your team.
So you have to either grab a bunch of them all at once, which again, we already had a good team. That's why it worked. We had a good team and he made us a little bit better. So he's not an idiot. I'm not saying Chuck Fletcher's an idiot. What I'm saying is he's undisciplined.
Yeah.
Maybe he's realizing that now.
and maybe that's why he doesn't want to spend. But there's no cohesion to the moves altogether.
And that's where you get into there are too many cooks in the kitchen. I've been hearing that lately, and I think that from all the signs you see, the rumors getting out, and then Fletcher coming, like Fletcher might have been like not that serious about Johnny Gaudreau, not because he didn't want him, because he's like, hey, I can't do this, and they're like, no, we're going for it.
Yeah, and if Dean Lombardi, Paul Holmgren, Bobby Clark are all in his ear saying, well, I want you to do this. That's like, imagine if you're at work and your three bosses in a senior management level position are telling you to do something. Are you going to tell them no? You're probably going to try to appease them, right?
And I'll say this, and for those who are worried that he's going to burn it down on his way out, I will say the vote of confidence that you should get from this is not that they were chasing forward and it was kind of fruitless, is that Chuck Fletcher didn't do it in the end.
Yeah.
He could have. And we would have got Johnny Gaudreau, would have felt good and all that stuff initially. And then what happens if the Flyers are a mediocre team or a bad team next year?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have an opportunity at Connor Bedard and you have to trade that pick.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Or he gets fired. And now we're hampered.
Terrible optics wise.
He didn't make a final decision where my job is completely on the line. And I think that's probably where his frustration is coming from, is that I think he knows that people aren't paying attention to that, but that's his fault at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel that he is responsible for what has happened. And the first year he showed discipline. People thought he was going to come in and start chopping heads and all that. He didn't. He waited, and then he did his moves in the offseason. But this team wasn't ready to compete for a Stanley Cup yet. It just showed signs of maturity just then. You didn't need to add Hayes and Niskanen and Braun. You didn't need to do any of that stuff. You didn't need to get rid of Ghost. You need to build your team. Let your coach go in there, do some of this stuff. Like, obviously, there's a lot of things that went wrong. It's hard to blame it all on him, but the spending, the lack of discipline, like the Detroit Red Wings did. Like they brought in a bunch of kind of mediocre guys for a while, cleaned up cap. All of a sudden, they have this good young team, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll just take all these good young players, fill out our roster like that overnight, and they're probably contenders next year."
Yeah, they're probably going to be one of the top teams in their division.
With the players they added,
they're going to be really good.
Perron,
and then you add in already, Larkin, Bertuzzi, Seider.
With another year, these guys are older.
Exactly. That's the way to do it, right? Yzerman obviously is a great GM. There's he's the main reason Tampa's in the situation that they're in, right? Like,
he doesn't get ripped off in trades. How many trades you see where you look at him and he's just
usually Yzerman's ripping, teams off.
That's fair.
The sad thing is we used to be that organization under Paul Holmgren, and Hextall had some decent trades as well.
TK and Gudis for Coburn with Yzerman. He didn't get ripped off by Yzerman.
No.
We got a guy that ended up being Travis Konechny. And a guy who was a defenseman for us.
Like you said, teams realize, though, that, with Fletcher and just the way he's been operating under the Flyers, it just seems like the team is always in a panic to, okay, we need to make a move now, and no matter what happens, we're going to try to make it. Obviously, they didn't do that with JVR in respects to trying to add Johnny Gaudreau, but all those moves compounded, and it tells the league that, you know what? If we want to fleece Chuck Fletcher, and if he really wants it bad enough, we could probably do it.
Well,
and that's not a good thing, right?
I don't even think. I think that's actually. I think it's simpler than that. Like, I think I think people think it's like, oh, Fletcher is shown to be a weak GM. I think it has nothing to do with Fletcher. It's a game of chess, right?
Oh, yeah.
Think about it like warfare. You are putting yourself in a position to get shot. Like, you had cover, you had cap space, you had assets. You had tons of. What do I need from you? I need. I have to trade JVR. I don't have to trade JVR anymore.
No. Yeah,
in fact, I don't need to do anything. I can do nothing. In fact, you need what I have. We have none of that. That is gone.
Exactly,
He spent all of that in 3 years, and it's gone. And that's why you can't have Johnny Gaudreau. And that's the reality of what's happening.
Yeah, it is true that the mismanagement of the cap for the last 3 seasons and adding when, like you said, it wasn't necessary to add, essentially back them into this corner. But even
it was a ruse. It was fake. Last year's investment with the Ghost and that was all fake. Like, oh, we can afford to move. That was a stupid trade.
Yeah.
I said this over and over again. People think I'm kidding. He led the defense in points, and we traded him and gave away a second and a seventh to get rid of him. And then
brought in Tony DeAngelo, who essentially is a right-handed version.
Excuse me, to add on to that, and our defense got worse when he left. Our power play got worse, and nothing got better. And then we eventually fired that coach who made excuses about him. I want to remind everybody what happened, because if that happens again, look for these patterns and know why I got upset to begin with, because it usually is bullshit.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I'd rather have Ghost than go through that full circle of losing all those assets. Saying.
And then also you have to add into the fact, I mean, you don't get rid of Ghost, there's no risk to line in, and there's a lot of people, who are, feel different ways about him. I don't think he's as bad as people say. No. But there are certain metrics that he, you can't deny.
He's a one-dimensional player.
Exactly.
He's a one-dimensional player. The one thing I do think that in DeAngelo's case, I don't know, man. I've seen the guy play.
He has talent. I like the move. I like the move from a hockey perspective. I just don't understand the plan in general, because, I mean, if you're going to bring in a DeAngelo type and you're going to spend that money, then what's the point of, doing the other moves that you made? Like, essentially, like, if you're going to bring in DeAngelo, you really want to compete. Why sign Nick Deslauriers and Justin Braun? Why not go for Dylan Strome that got $3.5 million today and sign with the Caps when you need center help, right? Why not address your most pertinent needs? And that's the thing. And that's the reason why, I personally, with Johnny Gaudreau, great player, would have been great to have him in Philly. He's from Philly. Would have been an amazing story. But you have to remember, right? The Flyers had Claude Giroux in his prime. They had Jake Voracek in his prime. When you don't surround players of that talent with enough talent, what happens? The team isn't very good. So arguably you would have had Johnny Gaudreau and it would have been the same situation, right? A winger, great scorer, can create opportunities for his teammates, but is that going to move the needle and bring your team to the next
that's why you draft Gauthier instead of trade the pick for
DeBrincat. Yeah, exactly. Is that going to move your team to the needle of being a Stanley Cup contender? In my opinion, no. Personally, the way I would build a hockey team and the way that I believe, the areas on the ice need to be focused on is, okay,
we know what it is.
Yeah, you build center, down the middle and your defense. I mean, the defense thing makes sense for DeAngelo in the sense that, okay, you don't have Ryan Ellis. Your D was in shambles last season. Your best defenseman, Ivan Provorov, was playing with Justin Braun, who isn't a good match for him. You wanted to get in a guy who matches his skill set, who's going to bring out the best in your other young, talented defensemen. So in that sense, I get it. But in terms of some of the other moves made here, you buy out Oscar Lindblom, who has the upside, in my opinion, to bounce back, and he showed signs of this in the second half of last season.
That was because of the undisciplined behavior. That's why they had to do it.
Exactly. That's a mitigation of that, but it just doesn't cohesively make sense to buy out Oscar Lindblom for me, and then you sign Nick Deslauriers and Justin Braun with that same money.
Well, the Deslauriers is the too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody in the
that's why I got 4 years.
Somebody in the brass wanted him for sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I know you follow Minnesota, so you definitely watched him play. From my understanding of Deslauriers, and again, I've seen him play, but not a ton. He is one of the toughest son of a bitches in the league. Okay,
here's the breakdown on Deslauriers that I'll give you. He's very tough. He's actually pretty decent on the penalty kill. 5-on-5, though. Whenever he's on the ice, if you look at the actual analytics, and I'm not a full analytics guy, okay?
Yeah.
Sometimes analytics can be bullshit. You cherry pick the stats. It's not always accurate. But in his last 2 or 3 seasons of play, if you look at his analytics 5-on-5, he is literally
one of the worst in the league.
He's the bottom 5. He
was a defenseman converted to be a forward. So that should tell you something.
Exactly, right? In terms of sustaining any ozone pressure or helping on a forecheck, he isn't going to do much for you in that sense. And the reason why I really don't understand the signing, especially to buy out Lindblom is a guy that can help you and has been shown to be a play driver and is in good position when he's on the ice. So that's the thing. You need play drivers on this team, and then you get rid of one who's shown in the past that he could be one.
But we know why it happened. It didn't happen because they want to lose Lindblom. It happened because they were undisciplined and they made poor decisions and they're in a bad place financially.
But what I'm saying is, Yariv, it all points back to the lack of cohesion. Is like, do you have a plan as to what you're doing? Like, do you want to retool? Do you want to compete, or do you want to rebuild? Right.
I think it's very clear, and again, there's a little bit of hubris on my part here. I think it's very clear that they're doing exactly what I said that they should do.
Yeah.
They communicated the wrong thing out to people.
Yeah.
There's too many people who communicated stuff out to beat writers, to us, to Fletcher's press conferences, too many mixed messages. Everybody, like, if you would have told us we were straight up rebuilding, and this does not even include
no one would have a problem, I don't think.
Right. But you said aggressive retool. To me, means absolutely nothing. To other people, clearly means a lot.
It does.
I've been saying it for a while. I said, it doesn't matter to me what they say. I know what your options are.
Yeah.
Like,
well, this is the thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, the Goudreau thing would have been possible.
Yeah.
But if you fuck up, you set this franchise back so bad that it will not even be funny.
No, exactly.
You don't have the option. Those risks are gone now because of all the other things you did. And quite frankly, people might laugh at me for this one. You should have traded Scott Lawton when you got offered 2 first-round picks for him. He's a very good player. But if you really wanted to build this team up, you would have got rid of the guys who were the bubble in the middle that weren't going to be stars, kept your star players, build up tons of fucking assets, and then draft elite young players to fill in. And it didn't really do it. They had that, and they're like, well, let's just fill in veterans and go for it. And it's like, but there were too many question marks.
To go for it. Exactly.
There was just too many question marks. It was open. We just lost Niskin. We had Patrick with the injuries. It's like you didn't have your number 2 guy, and Hayes wasn't like, he's a good number 2, but he's not great.
But on a contending team, ideally might be a number 3, right? Like a really good team. Exactly.
Like, I get why he did what he did in the first year. I get it. I understand. Sure. I understand. But I also think the type of home runs he tries to hit, like the D'Angelo thing, I think that one could actually pay off. He's 26 years old. Like, I know people are like, oh, he's 26. He is what he is. No, he's not. He's coming into his game now. So if he matures now, maybe he's here to stay.
I mean, he's top 5 last season in points per 60, guys. And,
people are so certain Sanheim's gone. I'm like, first, let's wait to see if Ryan Ellis can play hockey again. Then you can talk about one of our defensemen leaving. Because as of right now, we have 4, and then York on ELC, and then every other guy is not capable of playing.
And that Ellis one, he can always be, LTR'd and used for Samheim.
And we have no other top 4 prospects except for maybe Zamula, who is yet to prove that so far.
Yeah, though
Ronnie, it's hard.
I hope he somehow gets a look, Zamula, because I think he deserves it. But we'll see what happens there.
Look, all that is fine. I don't care about the Connaughton. Like, let's talk about the signings actually, because this one's gonna be all over the place, guys. So you can just deal with it. But the signings, from yesterday, obviously the Flyers signed Justin Braun on a 1-year deal, 1.75. They signed Delorier on a 4-year deal, 1.75 average. They signed Troy Grosnick. Yeah, he's the goalie. 32 years old, journeyman.
He has 4 NHL games, by the way.
Yeah, journeyman. Again,
backup competition. So I don't know.
No, we know who our backup goalie is. It's Felix Sandstrom. It was supposed to be Fedotov, and he got fucked again. And there's honestly, I don't know how you blame Fletcher for that one.
Can't really.
Yeah. This other guy, Louis Belpedio. Wow, it's an interesting name. Defenseman, also AHL guy. They re-signed Kevin Connaughton on a 2-year, 2-way contract for AHL role. I saw people like joking that he's going to play in the NHL, maybe, but that probably means because injuries are crazy.
Yeah, that happens if there's 3 injuries here.
Yeah, you're talking about like 9th, 10th on the depth chart here. Like, if everybody's injured that bad again and he's playing, I'm not going to be like, oh, Fletcher, what an idiot. Like the team has more problems if they sustain those amount of injuries again. Exactly.
There's something with the medical staff at that point.
Connaughton in the AHL is going to be really good. So hopefully that can help. Him and Sealer, if they both play in the AHL, actually be very good for the Phantoms to use guys like that. That will definitely help them because the Phantoms sucked last year. So I do like that. He also signed Adam Brooks. He's also going to play a big role in the AHL. Guy who has some NHL experience, but mostly just a good AHL player. And then former, I think he was a 5th round pick, if I remember correctly. 5th round pick, Cooper Maruti, but a guy who actually had a very promising, I believe it was NCAA career. And then Hextall traded him for a 3rd round pick
Yeah, he was over a point a game last year, I think, in the AHL. So
yeah, actually, we all thought that maybe we screwed up trading him, and it's kind of interesting the Flyers brought him over. I bet they're kind of looking at it as like, well, he's available. It was like, he's still pretty young. Maybe he'll turn into an NHL guy still.
Yeah, it's possible.
He's definitely good. Well, definitely a good player.
He's a good AHLer for sure. And I think the thing is with those 3 signings in Connaughton, Marody, Brooks is, like you said, the Phantoms were terrible last year. If you want to foster a better culture, better development of your younger guys, you want to have some success at the AHL level. So I understand that. And the real thing for me is just like, at least with all this, is like, I personally didn't think that, allocating $10 million to a winger is really, the move to make. Like I was saying before, center depth, defensive depth, there's other things you can do. It's just like, and like, I mean, I even tweeted out on Twitter the other day that, or not the other day, basically yesterday, but essentially that you can't take, for certain and gospel in these press conferences, well, they say aggressive retool, so why didn't they do an aggressive retool? Like, this is like, hockey corporate speak. Like, you can't take that all as gospel, but for them to come out, I mean, in the press conference and, Chuck Fletcher to say, he said next year looks to be more of a stabilizing year for us. And Charlie O'Connor of The Athletic asked him, well, when you say stabilizing, do you mean rebuilding? He said, well, no. And he kind of chuckled. He even laughed at Charlie, which I found hilarious.
It means wait for your window.
Yeah. He basically said, this is a retool, Charlie, not a rebuild. And he doubled down on that in the press conference. Said, "This is a retool."
I'll be honest with you. Chuck Fletcher is right. By the way, I'll be honest with you. I don't really think people understand what any of these terms mean, and you guys are putting your own terminology to it. An aggressive retool does not mean we'll be better next year. It never means that. What it means is we will be aggressively adding pieces. They are being aggressive as it is possible without being fucking stupid. And I would actually argue they've been more stupid than they should have been already. And if they were just more disciplined and ignored the entire fan base for a little bit initially and then giving them what they want, then you get Johnny Gaudreau. Because and I'm sorry to cut you off, Vasili, because there is a world where Johnny Gaudreau on this team does make sense. And if you didn't re-sign Risto, and we were pissed. We were saying, remember, we were like, what is the plan here? If you didn't continuously hold on to this thing that you thought you were building and kind of freed yourself up and provided yourself leverage, you could have gone into an offseason like this.
You could have got Gaudreau, who wanted to come here.
With lots of cap space, brought in the fresh new Gaudreau. You free out, like you had to move Giroux, I guess. You look at the contract that Giroux signed, wasn't, he probably was signed for us for less. He signed $6.5 million for 3 years.
Probably for $6 million or 5.5.
I think we could have got him 5.5. You didn't have to do this stuff with the team. You wanted to make your stamp on it and make it aggressively, and because of that, you spent our capital.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, the stamp you put on it, it's with players that aren't really going to move the needle for you. Like, would you rather have a Rasmus Risto? No, D'Angelo. Okay, D'Angelo's totally different. I meant in terms of Ristolainen.
No, I agree. I agree with your overall thing.
Ristolainen's not going to move the needle for you by himself. Like, would you have been better to allocate that money to Johnny Gaudreau? 100%. Would you have been better even if you didn't sign Johnny Gaudreau and you could have got Claude Giroux for $5.5 million instead of signing Ristolainen? I was telling people trade Lawton now. Yeah, exactly.
Do you want a 28-year-old Lawton or do you want Johnny Gaudreau? I love Scott Lawton. He's a great player. He has a lot. He would have been so easy to trade.
I know. There's so many. Easy. There's other things they could have done. Definitely. That's the thing.
This guy's not even a determined position on our team.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I think the place where the fans are really the most pissed off. And this is the thing, is that like Philadelphia fans in general are smart fans. Flyers fans, I'd like to say, are smart fans. They don't want to obviously be lied to. I mean, you shouldn't take gospel on what any executive's going to say. No, but they
were lied to, especially when he lied about the Gaudreau thing. That was stupid.
Exactly. Any press conference. That's what I mean, right? Like if he would have maybe came out and said, "Oh, we tried our best, but I didn't want to move the 2023."
Should have just said he should have just said, "Look, we explored all options."
But we couldn't do it exactly.
And I'm sorry to cut you off, but that is what happened here, guys. For those of you who are saying that there are no plans, there isn't one. But that's because they don't really have a best option right now. They cornered themselves. So they go, okay, if somebody bites on JVR, we'll bring in Goudreau, but they clearly internally don't see Goudreau as a must-have. That is obvious to me. They don't see him as a must-have, which we agree is kind of true, right?
Yeah, he isn't a must-have now.
It's a must-have after you pissed everybody off.
Yeah.
But a top pairing 26-year-old defenseman, if it works out, it could blow up in their face. Don't get me wrong. But if it works out, that is a must-have for this team because it's a guy who could grow with the team. I'm not saying they made the right decision. Maybe you invest in something a little more high-end even.
But I also could argue that like you're a guy, Chuck Fletcher, saying we need high-end talent, we need high-end skill. Obviously, he wants to look to do that through the draft, which I agree with that strategy because chances are next season with the roster they have, I don't think they're going to be the worst team, but they're not a lock at making the playoffs, that's for sure. So like they're going to have a pretty decent pick most likely in the first round, and next year's one of the best drafts in the last 20 years. So they'll add a high-end player in that sense, right? Well, so that's fine. That's fine. Or you hope they do anyhow. But realistically, like you need high-end talent, you need high-end players. You prioritize fucking Nick Delorier and Justin Braun. I mean, probably with Delorier, too many cooks in the kitchen.
What does that tell you, dude?
Yeah, well, the talent evaluation's off. Also, the fact that you don't have cap space to do anything either.
Hold on. Let me slow you down. Yeah. Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just to say one more thing, like personally, this team had a weakness at center all last season. You don't even know if Morgan Frost is really a center. Like you spent 1.75 and 1.75.
So many questions.
Like that's 3.5 million. You could have got Dylan Strome. You could have got another, set center like a Sam Steele maybe, and went for a younger player that has some upside.
Oh, you just heard me. But
but
let's say this.
Why the fourth liner when you have Zach McEwen already qualified that essentially is the same fucking role?
We should say this with the amount of young guys going around and not offered, most likely we'll have PTOs. But if they don't do that too, though, that is pretty stupid. Look, I agree with everything you say, but let's take a step back here because I do agree with you. You know that already. I agree with you. What you're saying is smart. Let's take a step back here. Let's assume they're not idiots. Let's assume that they're not stupid.
That's hard, Yariv, but I'll go with you there.
I know. Especially now, because like yesterday was painful. It was painful. Okay. Yeah. Let's assume that they're not good at communication, which they aren't. Okay.
No.
Let's assume they suck at that. If we take the actual moves that they are making in isolation, right? And your motivation is not to be good. You're not thinking about, are we a playoff team next year? Which I do not think that they are focused on that.
No.
And even the Fedotov bringing him over, because of all the things that you stated, there are way too many questions here. An insane amount, including the Ryan Ellis, that what if he is healthy and they bring in and they max out the cap and then all of a sudden he's got to play? That defense pretty sick, by the way, if he is back, which
is probably not happening.
But agreed. But he doesn't know that for sure.
Yeah.
So if he locks himself up, then he's really fucked. And then you have zero leverage, and then you have to trade your pick or whatever. So they like I said, all of this is caused by them. They did this. They're responsible for this.
Into the corner, essentially, like you were saying, just by the way they managed the cap over the years.
So now they realize this, right? I think they realized it even before the Johnny Gaudreau thing. I think they were just kind of going, well, let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
Buy out anybody you need to buy out, do whatever. And I think they inevitably hit a wall where they went, okay.
I'm wondering too, just to cut you off.
This is the furthest we can go.
How, when did they try to start moving salary or moving JVR?
I think they've been trying to move. I think they've been trying to move JVR since 3 years.
Okay, fair enough.
I think they've been constantly.
So. I hope so. I mean,
and the price has not come down because the desperation has always been there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Again, trades are about leverage.
Yeah,
they're about leverage. Sure. They're not always
about
value.
Well, if a team really knows you need to get rid of a player to do something, and that move that you're going to make is ultimately going to make you a better team in the league, which obviously isn't to the benefit of another team, why would they help you out in that situation? So, of course, it makes sense. But.
Yeah. And how many teams were desperate to add toughness this year?
A lot of teams wanted to add toughness. I mean, there was we got
toughest guy available.
We got into this before the show. Like, there's no doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt that teams were in on Delorier and things of that nature.
That's not my point. Well, I'm cutting you off. I'm sorry, but all I want to say is I don't think the Flyers are trying to get better.
No, yeah, but I do think that they think that the moves that they made were good moves.
Yes, if you're not thinking there's a good chance the Flyers will be the worst team in the division next year. New Jersey Devils got better. They got Palat. They got Palat last night, which was maybe one of the smartest signings.
He's underrated, to be honest. I wouldn't have minded.
All I had flashes was of what's his name? Patrick Elias. Just scoring on the Flyers over again.
Andre Palat, Patrick Elias, very similar.
Exactly.
Are they from the same?
Yeah, Czech. I think they're both.
Yeah, they're both Czech.
Slovakian or Czech.
Yeah, I believe so too.
But yeah, like our division is getting better, and I think they kind of realized, like, okay, we're in a rat race right now. This is stupid, right? And I think that's what the DeBrincat stuff started, and they realized, man, but what we really need is a center. Yeah. A real one, a real center that can complement Sean Couturier, a 1-2 punch, right? Not a Kevin Hayes who's really good, like a real 1-2 punch. We want to win a cup. I think the Flyers are essentially kind of throwing their hands up and going, we've pushed this as far as possible. It's embarrassing to see.
Yeah.
Embarrassing, because they should have known ahead of time that this was going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. And now I think we're going to see a lot of probably moves that we are going to be confused by, because they're going to be set up for next year.
Yeah,
which is why they signed Delorier for 4 years, because in their mind, they're like, for the next 4 years, we are never going to be out intimidated. That's literally the stance they just made. Say it's stupid. I can agree with that, but that's what they did.
Yeah, that's ultimately the move they
and Justin Braun's here for York.
With Delorier. Yeah, well, okay, this is the thing. The Braun signing I have no issue with. And
York Braun is an amazing bottom pairing.
Yeah, that's a great bottom pair. I like it. And the thing is, Justin Braun's the ideal third pair guy, essentially.
Yes.
So have him with a young guy like Cam York, not a bad move. But
you're hoping D'Angelo works out. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. You gotta hope D'Angelo works out, but it's more just the fact that with a guy like Delorier that puzzles me, and the lack of cohesion is you have Nick Delorier, you have so many young guys, you have an Allison, you have Lazinski, you have Brink, who might be injured, Ratcliffe. Why do you need Delorier when I understand that we don't want to get out intimidated, but isn't Zach McEwen enough of a regular enforcer for you if you need that? Why do you need Delorier? That's the thing that doesn't make sense, right?
My guess is, again, I don't know Delorier that well, so and you said it yourself, right?
McEwen's better, in terms of actually playing hockey. McEwen can fight. He might not be as tough as Delorier. Might lose some of the fights, but you know what? In terms of actually playing hockey, Delorier is not as good as Zach McEwen. So in terms of from a 5-on-5 standpoint, no.
Like I said, I wouldn't make this move, but I
know that
at what Delorier does, again, it's like getting what's his name,
Ryan Reeves.
Ryan Reeves. Okay, Ryan Reeves is not even as good as McEwen either.
No.
Okay,
well, it's true. We were talking about
the intimidation game is elite, and that's what they paid for.
We talked about it off air. You guys can look back and you can laugh at the Penguins and call them stupid, but they did, in hindsight, they traded Oscar Sundqvist and a first-round pick for Ryan Reeves and a second-round pick. And Ryan Reeves is effectively an enforcer that is not very good at 5-on-5 hockey. So, there's value for these teams.
He's not very good at any situation.
No, well,
Intimidator.
Yeah, Intimidator, exactly. So
Delorier at least plays PK.
At least there's some PK value there. And Bradshaw's a good PK coach, so he'll be able to utilize them in that way. I don't have worries there. I guess honestly, you could say
Zach
that
McEwen could be in the minors next year. I do.
Yeah, you could say they'll put McEwen in the minors. It's just a tough sell, especially for your fan base when you were touting, aggressive 100%. Retool. We're gonna, blank check. We're gonna be doing this. Or we're gonna be doing
people
that.
People are heartbroken, Vasili. Honestly, I was listening to High and Wide, and they were doing the call-ins.
Oh, on the Twitter Spaces, that was great. Yeah.
Dude, there was this one guy. He was so upset that he was like, I can't talk anymore. He's like, I gotta go.
Yeah,
I've been paying for this team for years. He's like, this team died when Ed Snyder.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Yariv. I haven't seen this fan base. This dismotivated, whatever you want to call it.
I feel that way. Don't you feel that way?
I feel the same. I feel the exact same way. I even got DMs from people saying, we love the coverage you guys do with Flyers Nitty. Like, good luck watching this team because I'm not watching them next season.
I'll be watching every game, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching every game, 100%. But, I mean, like, to see that and just to see like, the way it's unfolding with the fans, it's kind of, you know, it really is a sad state. And, like, I don't think this might be one of the lowest points, if not the lowest point in the Philadelphia Flyers franchise history, which is kind of crazy to think. I mean, I'm sure most fans thought once that
the lowest so far.
Yeah, the lowest so far. Like that Simpsons episode.
Yeah, it was that Simpsons movie. It's the worst day of my life.
Worst day of your life so far.
Yeah.
So
great advice, Dad.
I guess it could get worse. Hopefully not. But
right.
I mean, realistically, like, people probably thought that Hextall firing, that was the lowest point, and that could only go up from that point. Certainly not after what we've seen unfold. The only thing, I mean, that you can hope for is just seeing the young players on this team take a step forward. That's the main thing, I think, going into the next
That's
season.
The only thing they have to actually be better.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're going into next season without Claude Giroux. You started the season with him.
That's the point I wanted to make. Like, your team is...
and without Lindblom.
Yeah, for a team that stated, we're going to, you know, aggressively retool, we're going to make sure, you know, what happened last season doesn't happen again. They did not set themselves up in any manner that it might not, might not be that bad.
They did. I will tell you, they did one thing that is big, and they
brought D'Angelo.
Tortorella
and D'Angelo.
Look, they are but again, this is the reality that they find themselves is.
Well, I just meant not from like an actual coaching or standpoint like that. I meant like from roster construction wise. Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. They're banking on Tortorella figuring out what's wrong with this team.
Hopefully,
because look, the way people talk about the players on this team, you would think that there is zero talent here.
No, there is talent.
No, I know. I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, look, we're talking about perspective of how people feel right now. It's understandable. Like, do you see anybody excited about Cutter Gauthier? That guy could be a franchise center.
He could be, but nobody. Or I see takes saying, "Oh, who knows?"
That sounds crazy.
Another draft.
These guys are
no, I see takes saying, another Flyers draft pick that's going to be a bust. Like, you haven't even seen the guy play, so you gotta calm down.
But it's almost not their fault because they're being abused like over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like imagine, okay, if somebody continues to punch you in the face. Are you typically going to sit there and be punched in the face, or are you going to walk away after a while? And that's what the Flyers management's been doing to their fans. They've been punching them in the face and punching them in the face and punching them in the face.
Yes.
And there hasn't been anything to look forward to. And now you're going to see...
And Gaudreau was the one thing.
Exactly. And
that was going to unite everybody over the love of him.
That's the straw that broke the camel's back. And it's crazy because this fan base has been divided now for a lot of years.
And everybody's united
Everybody's united in that and the cohesion that they all cannot stand Chuck Fletcher at this point. So
because you should have been managed well enough that you should have been able to make that happen, because that's a sign of a good team. Is that like Florida couldn't keep Giroux in the end. Why aren't people freaking out? They gave up assets. Like, I was listening to Broad Street Hockey and Bill and Kelly were on, and they were just like who's going to score goals on this team? And like, I get it. They're so frustrated with the team. I totally get it. But why the hell did we trade for Cam Atkinson? Like, don't people realize that you guys are just, no matter who comes in here, you will be unhappy. You will. Until they win, you will be unhappy. The reality is they brought in one of the best offensive defensemen in the NHL who's 26 years old, the same age as our young defenseman, who potentially now can be part of our core if it works out. I get it's a question, but there should be actual excitement on that. And there isn't. There isn't excitement on anything right now. And I don't blame people. But if we want to just talk about reality of where we are, this is a very uncomfortable place to be. And this is probably the right place to be. Kind of, but they should have been more aggressive in removing assets rather than adding them and being stable for 1 year. Let Torch do his thing, gather some real goddamn cap space, and go and get yourself an elite player. Like a Gaudreau will be available. There will be another guy of that caliber available.
Exactly.
And you wait for that Eichel trade.
Yeah, and realistically, like we've been talking about, is like, do you really want to allocate that much money to a winger for that many years? It's not the best in terms of roster construction.
If your team is structured properly.
Yes, exactly. If you have the money and your team structured properly, but they didn't have the money, and that goes back to your point that they just didn't manage things the right way to actually bring Johnny in or have the ability to do that.
Well,
and they back themselves into a corner, as you're saying, leverage-wise with all the moves, and it all adds up, right? It all culminates.
100%, dude. But like, okay, I brought this up before. We've talked about this before. The amount of wingers that we have. Yeah. Lindblom was just one of them making $3 million. Can we say Lawton's a winger? Sometimes, okay? There's another guy. Then you have Noah Cates, who just showed up, who's definitely a top 9 player. If he's playing the bottom 6, fine. But the guy is legit, right? There's also Frost, who could play wing. We have Tippett. We have Atkinson. We have TK. We have Farabee. We have JVR. Allison.
There's too many wingers anyway. Like, you got to look at it from a roster construction standpoint.
But that's what I'm saying. We can't add him because we built our team wrong. If we were strong down the middle, then you add the superstar winger. You go no brainer because we're short on wing. You know, we used to be strong down the middle. That used to be a thing of the Flyers. And if you look at their draft picks prior to,
the Flyers were always good at developing centers. They were always good at developing centers.
Now
they always had trouble with the defensemen though.
Gauthier is yes, it's true. Gauthier is that guy.
It's that mold exactly,
dude. I feel look. I'm very upset like everybody else, but I cannot deny that I still love the Torts hiring. You know, as far as making us better.
I
love Gauthier.
I like Gauthier. I like the D'Angelo move.
And I like D'Angelo.
I like all those moves. But
in isolation, none of these moves are that bad.
No, in isolation, it's not that bad. But the real thing is, like, I think most of the fan base and a lot of people would have been happy if the team just flat out came out and just said, you know what, guys, we realize we aren't very good. And we realize that we need to add high-end talent, which they did say that.
They did say that.
But
they didn't say we're not good, but
they should have said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take the next season. We're going to evaluate. We're going to bring in a coach like a Tortorella who's going to, stabilize things, create our culture the way we want to be created, get our younger guys back onto the right track, into the right development process, which I believe Tortorella will do. Yep. And we're gonna take it as it goes. We're not going to aim for the playoffs. We're not going to make, unrealistic expectations. We're not going to aggressively retool or none of those keyword triggers, but we're going to take it as a year where we can really assess what's happening, try to rebuild our cap space, like you're saying, rebuild our assets that we've wasted on players that don't move the needle unless they're already on a really, really good team. And then we're going to try to make our additions. And then we're going to try to, make the big splashes when we kind of have a direction to go in. But it just doesn't seem like are you rebuilding or are you adding Tony D'Angelo and wasting draft picks and assets to add him just to be a middle of the pack team, right? Like, ultimately it's in the Flyers' best interest. Let's say, okay, the way the Flyers are structured, would it be in their best interest to finish bottom 5 in the league in next year's draft and get another top 5 pick?
Yes,
probably. Adding Tony D'Angelo, I love the move from a hockey perspective. I don't care about the off ice shit. People can change. He was 24 years old when that happened. A 24-year-old human being is not a developed individual in their life. They can change, they can mature, they can grow. And I believe that. So fuck the off ice shit. But in terms of the on ice, he is an objectively really good defenseman, .80 points per game last season. But the thing is, like, if you're a team that needs to be that bad to get that high in talent, like, adding him isn't going to do that for you. It's going to make you a better team. So, like, that's what I mean. That's where I think people are frustrated is, like, why make these moves? Why trade draft picks when you probably should be hoarding them to either use them as assets when you're good down the line or, make those picks and then use those prospects later as assets, when you're actually a real contender, right? Like, there's just no actual, like, structure of, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to stick to that plan. It's just all over the place. It's like, I want to draft high-end talent in the draft, says Chuck Fletcher, but then I also want to make these signings and be competitive in free agency and do shit like that too. Like, it's all over the place, right? There's my rant for the episode.
No, I look, there's a lot to rant about. It's a frustrating time. I think it's important though to just, if you don't want to watch this year, It's going to be painful to some degree.
It probably will, yeah.
To some degree, it could end up being better, but I think check back in. They've put some things in place where things could potentially get better. I'm not talking about the free agency. They did not do that in free agency. That was not what they did. They did not make their team better for the future. I mean, kind of with D'Angelo. They're hoping that one works out. If it does, it could be a long-term thing here. Maybe.
Yeah.
But that one's a hope, right? There's a lot of hopes and prayers here. And that's what we're going to get until they can get their shit together. And it's just kind of the reality. Let's talk about the other addition, though. Because actually, I won't be able to last too long on this call. Unfortunately, I got like another 10 minutes in me here. I got a deployment that I got to take care of from work.
That's okay.
I just got hit up by my boss. We'll have to take care of that in a bit. But the last thing is Rocky Thompson.
Yes.
Former assistant coach or associate coach for the San Jose Sharks. He lost his job. Well, he quit actually because they were mandating vaccines to work and he refused to take vaccines. So took the year off and now he's hired. From what I understand, he's known for taking his shirt off and challenging Evander Kane to a fight.
Which is pretty hilarious in retrospect.
Yeah. Former NHL player, definitely clearly an intense guy. And he's probably coming in here to run the power play. I don't think that's 100% confirmed. I think it's kind of assumed. But apparently he's got some creative skills. We'll see, Rocky, Rocky, Philly, come on.
It works. I mean, just another thing on Rocky Thompson, just quickly.
Yeah, please go ahead.
He even though he was a fighter, apparently his offensive tactics are really good and kind of ahead of the curve. So that's a good thing for a team that struggled offensively, struggled on the power play. He got hired in Windsor initially in that position when he coached for them, and they won there in Windsor eventually. He delivered an impressive scoring chance presentation in an NHL coaches clinic, and a lot of NHL coaches actually took his ideas and implemented those ideas into the NHL from a junior coach. So that's a positive because you have a guy there that looks like he's ahead of the curve and he thinks outside of the box. And ultimately, that's kind of what the Flyers need. I think they need some more out of the box thinkers, guys that aren't going to approach things directly and say, what can we do with the talent that we have to make things better? And I think that's the main thing that we've always talked about is that you have talent here. There has to be a way to maximize. You have Sean Couturier, who's a good player. You have Travis Konechny. You got a Joel Farabee. You got good players. How can you maximize them to the best of their ability? And I think John Tortorella will help, and Thompson should help with that. And the thing is, and you know what, we've been pretty.
You mean Thompson? You mean Rocky Thompson? Sorry.
Yeah, Rocky Thompson.
I'm thinking Nate Thompson. I was like, he's gone. Wait.
He's gone, but
sorry.
Hopefully they don't bring him back. But anyway, I mean, there's definitely a lot of negative. There's a lot of bad in the free agency and what's happened altogether. But the team ultimately, I will give mostly Flair credit because I don't think Fletcher's really that involved in the drafting process, unfortunately. But I'll give Flair credit that the Flyers under Flair have drafted well, and I like a lot of the picks that they've made. So sometimes it takes years for these younger guys to come up and really show their worth. So even though you think, there's no talent in the Flyer system, they don't have that high-end guy. I mean, they got Gauthier, looks like he could be a real elite player, but they also have younger guys that, like a Tuamala who has a really great skill set, like a Forster. We haven't even seen these guys, so you have no idea what they can be.
And Forster's also a big, strong kid.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, there's things that to look at, and you could point and say, you know what, there's promise there. But, is the right staff, coaching wise, there to bring that out? I think so. But in terms of a cohesive plan with management, do they actually know where they're going next? And that's, I think, the fear that everybody has. And that's concerning. When you look at what was done this offseason.
Yeah, I think that's not written, dude, to your point. I think it's ever changing. And I think that is a problem. They need to figure out what direction that they're actually going. I don't know if Chuck Fletcher will be here long enough for that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask one last question before we kind of hop off.
No, we don't. We're good. We got a few more minutes.
Okay. So do you believe by this time next year, Chuck Fletcher's the GM of this hockey team?
If I had to just go off of the vibe today, I would say no, but that obviously could change if Tortorella is a home run. Again, they're putting a lot on Tortorella. I do think the D'Angelo trade, again, I think the addition of D'Angelo potentially could work out very nicely. And I think the moves that were made I don't think people will like that I'm going to say this, but I think in the Flyers' mind, they are an investment in the current core.
Yeah,
like
they're investing in their current core minus Giroux, which who knows what that.
Well, they're kind of saying, "Hey, Provorov, here's your partner. Got you another one, right?
Yeah.
Hey, York is coming in the NHL. Let's get him a good bottom pairing partner." They know he's playing. They're even Shel Samuelson said, "Oh yeah, he's ready." Like they're not questioning whether York is ready. He's playing in the NHL next year. He's probably playing with Justin Braun, and they're probably like, "Well, let's bring Braun back. He knows York." You know what I mean? They're probably thinking that. And
what
then
I'm interested to see. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, and Tortorella was here to nurture them back to health, theoretically.
Yeah. With York, I'm interested. I mean, their power play was bad. They don't really have really dynamic forwards that you could say, okay, this guy's a good power play player, like in terms of like their forward core. I'm wondering if they lean to have D'Angelo and York on the same first power play together because they're both really good on the power play. I think they should do that.
That's possible.
Two
defenseman system.
I like that idea because both those guys, I think the Flyers, they really need to. That's the main thing, right? Their power play's been fucking terrible. They were 12.6% last season. That's literally very incompetent. Like they barely ever scored on the power play.
Yep.
And you can't do that if you want to at least get back to a middling, standpoint, which that's obviously their aim.
Dude, I have a hard time not blaming AV for that shit. I really do.
He didn't have the best tactics in place, and also didn't do the best to get the most of his players. So you got to hope Tortorella does that.
It was a slow spiral, dude. We watched it happen. We have watched everything slowly degrade.
Yeah, but also I didn't even answer my own question. I don't think Fletcher will be here personally. I think he's gone.
I think I think if it continues on the path that it is right now, he will not make it.
No, I think I think by next offseason it's probably Briere at the helm. And that's not to say that I think the team's going to have a very bad season. But what I think you're going to see is that they've turned a lot of fans off, Yariv. Like a lot of fans are not going to be going to games next season.
I think we're going to see that, yes.
You're going to see 3,000, 5,000 people in the building. And if they have those... Unless, I mean, they play a lot better. Well, at this point...
That's what they're banking on, dude.
That's what they're banking on. But, I mean, at this point... You can't, with the roster that they have currently construction, the moves that they made, you can't set that in stone. So like,
no,
that's what I mean. My thing is like
the opposite, actually.
Yeah, when you're in sports management and you're a professional hockey team, I mean, your fan base is an important thing, right? So if they see that let's say they start out and I don't know, they're like 11th in the conference, 10th in the conference, 12th in the conference by like December, and they have 3,000 fans a game. Fletcher's gone because you know what their mindset will be. It won't matter, and they'll say, "Well, the fans will be happy at least if we fire him." And everybody loves Danny Briere, so we can't do any worse.
I honestly think that they'll look at it like this. Like, look, we trusted in Fletcher. We thought he was leading, and we like him, smart dude. But we need somebody to lead the group. We need somebody to make, dude. I guarantee
we need somebody to make a cohesive plan.
It's not easy.
And like shit on Hextall all you want. At least he had a plan and he could point to it and say, "This is what I'm doing."
Yeah.
Like if you went
That's
off
why
the record,
I liked him more than Fletcher.
If you went off the record, like let's say me or you sat down with Chuck Fletcher at an off the record interview and said, "Hey Chuck, what's your plan?" Do you think he even could tell you? Cohesively?
Hextall just held on to Malkin, and like people are saying that they're pissed off at him. He just signed Raquel, he just re-signed Letang and re-signed Malkin all on the cheap.
He might have learned from his mistakes.
I'm just saying they're still getting ripped off less than us.
Yeah, exactly.
For all of his flaws. I don't think Chuck Fletcher is going. I mean, again, if things continue this, I do. People are saying it's a fireable offense to miss out on Gaudreau. I actually kind of agree to some degree. I really do agree because it would have been a humongous win for the organization.
Yeah.
And you mismanaged the team to a point where you didn't have money to get him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to look at it from this perspective. How terrible is it that you have a hometown guy who literally wants to come to your team, literally waited the whole day
and was second in the league in points.
Yeah, last year. 115 points exactly. Could have been an MVP candidate, 100%. Just didn't get the love. But I mean, like you had a guy from your city wanted to come. You mismanaged the cap so terribly that you couldn't bring him in.
It wasn't even possible.
And then, it wasn't even possible on the get-go. So then he says, you know what? I want to come so fucking bad to this city and play for my hometown team that I will wait all day for you to free up the space to bring me. And then you still don't do it, which I don't blame him, because like the 2023 first, if that's the corner you backed yourself into and you can't get rid of JVR and that's what you got to give up, you can't give that pickup, because then you look like an even bigger idiot when your team is not good next season. And even with Gaudreau, they wouldn't have been that good. Let's be fucking realistic.
Well, I'll say this. If you're healthy and the team is playing well, and if Gaudreau and Couturier hit it off, they're at least a bubble playoff team.
Yeah,
like right now we don't even know if that's the case.
No,
like,
but there's no
nobody would be surprised if they would be at bottom of the division, right? Like you wouldn't be shocked if they came in last place. In fact, that's why I'm kind of saying that they're doing what I said.
Yeah.
They know that they could be at the bottom.
But I don't know if it's intentional or it's just the fact that they
recognize there's too many unknowns, too many risks.
Yeah.
Even their backup goaltender was taken away. Too many risks. Top line left winger injured already. You have a $6.5 million contract sitting, or $6.25 million contract sitting over your head that you would love this guy to come back, but you don't know if he's coming back. And if he does come back and you add other players, you're screwed. If you don't cover anybody, you're screwed. Like if they would have gone with the exact same defense, it would have been a lot worse than going in. With a slightly upgraded offense.
People got to understand.
I still would have done Gaudreau.
Though, yeah, and this is the thing, right? Like you have,
you're going to be bad anyway.
You have a fan base that's demoralized. And you want to at least get the building packed.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things that does for you, right? From a marketing perspective, from a business side of the things, you can market the shit out of Gaudreau, sell a ton of jerseys. You're going to sell more season tickets. Like in terms of that too, and just bringing fans in, reinvigorating the fan base, that was a no-brainer. Yeah. And you set yourself up for failure. And that's the problem, is that no matter what Chuck Fletcher is doing, and no matter what he is trying to bring to the table or whatever plan he has in place, he's been consistently, as you've been saying as well, he's been consistently setting himself up for failure in a lot of areas with the way he's managing the cap, managing his assets, managing even the fucking coaching staff, because he should have never brought AV back last season. And what did he do? Like, there's just so many things you can point to and say, what are you doing and why? And what's the logic behind it? Like, I'd love to talk to you one-on-one.
Aggressive when you shouldn't be, and then not aggressive
when you should be.
You should be.
Yeah, exactly. Like you want.
When you notice the locker room's dead, and you're like, well, I'll wait another year.
I'll bring back AV and fucking Michelle Terry that everybody hates.
Yeah, and they lost They clearly lost the entire locker room.
They lost the
year before.
I would attribute that last season. Like that lost season in last year was based off of that. Like if they had Tortorella in, let's say, to start last season,
it wouldn't have been as bad. Then maybe they wouldn't have been a great team because of the injuries and all that, but it wouldn't have been that bad. That's why I said take advantage of it. We're probably not going to be that bad this upcoming year. So take advantage of the fact you got Gauthier. If we are that bad, if things are as bad as everybody says, it's a win-win. Honestly, if we're really that bad, Fletcher gets fired, and we're in Bedard's sweepstakes, and that's exciting.
Mitchkoff, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. We're in that sweepstakes, and the good thing is our cap actually isn't as bad if you look at long term. So this isn't. He didn't do it to us. He could have. This could be worse than it is. He didn't add like an 8-year contract. He didn't do that.
No. JVR comes off the books.
So if he gets fired, it's not the end of the world.
No, and I mean, I would say 50-50 at this point in terms of if he's going to get fired or not. I think he's walking the line. He's definitely like on a thin rope, I honestly, one of those type, one of those.
I feel bad for him, dude.
Yeah, I mean, but
dude, you imagine how stressed out he is. He knows everybody is so mad at him.
Yeah, the media is shitting on him for sure. I mean, we're shitting on him.
Charlie O'Connor. Kudos to Charlie O'Connor. He obviously did a great job from the journalist.
He was the only reporter there yesterday, which was awesome.
And he hammered him.
It. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine how awkward that must have been for him, just in the room by himself with Fletcher just fucking giving it to him like that. Like, oh man, that must have been it.
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure Charlie was pissed.
Probably, yeah.
I think he was.
I read his articles yesterday, and yeah, he didn't
look. He's a Flyers fan, just like we are.
Yeah, exactly. We're at the end of the day, you know what? If you're media for this team, there's a reason why you aspire to be media, because you were a fan of this team.
Yeah, and now they're making us look stupid.
Exactly.
You're making us look stupid. TSN's laughing at us, dude. Like, we're the joke of the league right now.
Yeah, the Flyers. When could you say, like, as a fan, what I always thought is, like, no matter what, the Flyers are never the laughingstock of the league.
No, we're the crazy team. We're the crazy team. You gotta be careful of us.
Yeah, but
we'll fucking RFA your players. Like,
that's like, a good
don't
thing,
sleep on us.
That's the type of shrewd move that I like. We're not that anymore. And like, if we were that, we would have signed Dylan Strome. We would have went after some of these young guys and said, you know what, we already have young players. Let's bring more young players, and maybe they can foster and grow together. And we have something else here. But they don't see that way. They don't attack those creative fixes. They go after the easy fix or a player that they already know is good. That's the thing with this management staff that I don't like in terms of NHL talent evaluation.
There's no risk.
There's no outside of the box thinking. Like, Tony DeAngelo is outside of the box.
Available. He was available for less than $1 million. You went for Yandel.
Yeah,
you didn't go for
exactly. You have to wait till he proved himself to make that move. It's like, this team will not, like, Chuck Fletcher and his management stuff, they will not take a risk on a young guy that maybe, like okay, I'll give you an example. If Colorado never took a risk on Valeri Nichushkin, would they have won the cup? No. But would Fletcher and his staff ever take a risk on a guy like Valeri Nichushkin? Like, did they try to sign Kubalik? He was only $750K more than Delorier. I'm sure he would have fucking done a lot more for you. Why not go after him? Like, there's so many young guys that did not get qualified that they should have been targeting if they were going to buy out Lindblom. And then you could have sold to your fans, you know what? We didn't see, the progression of Lindblom's game, but we brought in some other young guys that we think have the potential to be stars. And they didn't do any of that. So, like, it's just like, if a fan or us or, people who watch the game can pick this stuff out ahead of you as a fucking GM is getting paid to do this, there's a problem, man. Like, there is.
Well, we know there's a problem.
Yeah.
Full flag. We got a problem. All right. I got to drop from this one. We'll keep it to just close to an hour, a little short for us, but we'll have more. We have a good episode next week. I think Settlemeyer's coming on, right?
Nasty. Yeah, we got Nasty on, so that'll be great. We're gonna honestly, guys, next week, there's probably not gonna be much Flyers talk. We're gonna go like full like story mode with Nasty.
We'll see what happens, dude.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens, even though they said they're done. Yeah. But thanks for staying with us, guys. I know the Flyers pissed everybody off, but we could all be pissed off together. And even though things look bad, I will say this, and I'll keep on the sentiment, like, there is young players that have promise. Like, it might not be next year, might not even be the year after that, but there's prospects in this pool that have talent, and I have no like problem whatsoever putting my name on the line to say things like that, because I believe that to be true.
Absolutely, dude. And dude, I'd say too, there is talent. This is not just a talent issue. Like this is something else.
There's some organizational problems on the go.
Clearly. All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Like, subscribe, keep commenting. Again, you guys are awesome. And we're going to keep making content. We're probably going to make more content, like, just because they're bad.
Yeah.
We're going to stop. Yeah. So we're going to get down to the bottom of how to fix this team, because eventually there will be light at the end of the tunnel. All right. Thank you again. Thanks, Vasili. Talk to you guys soon. And remember, always stay gritty.